You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6.
You're here.
Councilmember Weston? Councilmember Weston is absent. Councilmember Price?
Here.
Councilmember Martinez? Councilmember Martinez and Councilmember Wu.
Present.
We have 3 members present and a quorum.
Okay, are we doing public comment first, or are we going to go right into the agenda?
Yes, if you'd like, we could go into public comment first.
Okay. Let's open up with public comment. I think we're doing 20 minutes. Is that it?
Yes, would you like me to read into the record how the public can access the public comment?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-871-1866. Press pound. Press pound again when prompted for the participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, please press *9 to request to speak. Thank you.
Should we start now?
Yes.
Okay.
You are unmuted.
Caller, your name, please, and how many items did you want to speak on? Hello? Hello? Caller, can you hear us? Hello? Okay, gotta move on.
Goodbye. not yet started. Please try again later. Goodbye.
Espérame un ratito, voy a marcar. Pero en el papel no indica ningún cuarto.
hitting and really ravaging certain communities. So we wouldn't take those resources and divide them up by 15 council districts, obviously. And then when we think about the needs, and Nora and I have been working on this in a significant way, we know that we have language barriers in some communities. We want to break down those issues for our community members. And we want to be sure that we give additional resources in spaces where families may be struggling as it relates to making sure they don't infect their family members, and especially when people are living in smaller quarters, or making sure they have tools. Like one request that we have that's pending with the mayor's office, the mayor's fund is actually to give thermometers and pulse oximeters to communities where people have been infected with the COVID virus, and they also have financial challenges in that space. So, and of course, we can talk about policy equity lens as it relates to food deserts or other zoning issues like nuisance locations in some of our communities that affect the health and well-being of our residents. The other thing that I think is really important to talk about the Office of Racial Equity, there are two other points I just want to make quickly, is the opportunity for upward mobility programming. And when you think about upward mobility programming, we're looking at getting people into the middle class and beyond. And we can do that through telling people about higher education opportunities, STEM careers, and actually having events, whether it's virtually or in person, to make sure that we afford people from underrepresented communities to have positions of power and authority that will allow them, again, to get into the middle class and beyond. It could be home ownership, it could be how to be an entrepreneur, etc. And then the last thing that I really want us to focus on is the industry diversity metrics. We in City Hall have heard of Executive Directive 27, which discusses the hiring practices and inclusion practices in our city departments. But actually, we want to look outwardly. And I call it industry diversity metrics, because we want to look at industry by industry, Silicon Beach, entertainment, banking, etc., and see what their numbers are on a voluntary basis. I want to be very clear that if you go to most corporate websites now, they'll have a Black Lives Matter hashtag, rainbow, and maybe someone that's disabled in a picture on their website. But when you get to their payroll, you don't see those people. And so we want to basically allow sunlight to be the best disinfectant in this space, and to work with our counterparts in private industry to give them some tools that we believe can work to make a difference in the space. And I'll just give you one quick example of the entertainment industry. Of course, a lot of people start in the mailroom, but how do you get those jobs? It's usually word of mouth, friend of a friend, and who can afford to work in those mailrooms making barely minimum wage or just a little bit above, and you're expected to be there 15 hours a day, be professional, have a reliable car, great clothes, and life experiences to air quote blend in with the culture there. And so a lot of times when we look at that pipeline of who makes a career in the industry, they also have set up a practice that is not a level playing field. And so there's inequities basically in there. We have some folks in entertainment that have actually changed those policies to make sure that people starting off are paid more money in the mailroom assignments, for example, and they're also doing recruitment in diverse communities and not just relying on word of mouth or friends of friends in the industry. So I'm really excited about the opportunity to address a number of challenges we have. Of course, are we going to solve everything? No, but we are going to use all the tools in our toolboxes, from the litigation all the way to moving forward with a culture to reverse some of the things that we've seen as far as hate crimes skyrocketing in the last 4 years. And we want to be very clear. It does not matter if we have one voice that might be silenced soon as it relates to a climate of racism from a public official. We want to be very clear that we have to address this for years to come, because obviously we haven't dealt with it. This will be a painful process, but we are moving forward. We're interested in moving forward to allow us to heal as a country, and particularly as a region. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve, but I want to be clear that I didn't think that in 2020 we would need a Department of Civil and Human Rights in Los Angeles, California, but our stats show that hate crimes have gone up in every category, from the Jewish community, immigrant community, obviously African American community, and so LGBT community, particularly crimes against our transgender brothers and sisters, particularly those transgender folks that are people of color as well. And we're talking extremely violent things that are happening. So we are ready to get up and rolling. We've been in business officially, I think, 37 days. So we are in business, but our end goal is to be sure that we put discrimination and hate out of business. Thank you. You're muted, Councilman. You're muted, Councilman.
Councilmembers Rue and Price, I have one or two questions, but I want to defer to you first, Mr. Rue. We're the least senior, so please go first.
A long time. I was very excited and pleased that you got this hero position, much well deserved, and you have a lot on your plate. Even before with the civil unrest and all the things happening all around us, this was a very important department that was needed for a long time in the city of LA. But it just emphasizes how important what your work and your role is. And you went over a lot of the different things that you're working on. I wanted to touch on one item, and my question was, what sort of enforcement mechanism does the department have? When some of the programs that you're working on, people don't comply or people complain about civil rights discrimination, racial some discrimination or whatnot?
Okay. Thank you for the question, Councilman. It's a pleasure to serve with you again. I'm really excited about this opportunity and the investment that the council has made in this space. As it relates to enforcement, we have a number of tools in our toolbox. The opportunity that we know of, and I should share with the general public, is we have a civil and human rights ordinance. So if you violate someone's civil and human rights as it relates to commerce, employment, housing, or education, we are able to bring a case against you for up to $250,000 per violation for such offense. However, we have an opportunity to scale up or down our response. So things could happen at a location. It may be a one-off. You might have a night manager that would do something as it relates to a public accommodation. And particularly as it relates, our API community in particular is actually suffering with, corona-related hate crimes or discriminatory practices. So if someone was working, just one shift, and someone that wasn't an authority at a location, they said someone can't come into their store because of their race, and they, did something that was inappropriate in that space. We could do anything as small as a letter of concern from the executive director, which would be a public document, saying on this day, this offense happened. I'm sure it was a one-off thing. This is not a pattern or practice, but you need to be aware of it. The next step could be there was a violation, a letter of concern. We have an investigator, of course, with our investigators to check out. And then to also, we could ask for a mediation. And in this space, I'm actually glad you brought this up because we're fortunate enough to have Pepperdine School of Law, one of the best mediation programs in the country, to volunteer to handle and run our mediation program for us. So we can sit down with the person that was wronged, particularly if the person is wrong, says, hey, I don't want to, have this drawn out and deal with it for so long. I just want the person to know you can't do that in Los Angeles and we'll call you out on it. And that's all they want. Maybe they might want to sit down and just have a mediation so that they know, so someone can learn their lesson and also learn about racial harmony in our region. So to not do the discriminatory practice. And that's maybe all they need to get things right. Now, if, the circumstances are more severe, and we're talking like it could even be violence, we have the ability to, have notice of violations and extensive fines. Like I said, they could go up to $250,000. We have, but that usually includes something really egregious like violence, etc. But our top fees our top fines under most circumstances would be $125,000. But I'm really I'm looking to make sure that people learn their lesson. And for some major corporations, this may be the only way they learn their lesson. You guys may remember the Denny's incident from the 1990s where they asked African Americans to pay in advance of receiving their food, and that was not a request of other patrons, particularly their white counterparts. And long story short, there was litigation, great deal of money. We also have the ability, if a case is really substantial, in addition to high fines that we can charge, we will have an opportunity to do referrals so jeopardy does not apply. It's not like if you are found in violation with us, the city attorney's office or district attorney's office or attorney general's office could not also bring a case against you. And it does not preclude you from having a case brought in other entities that could address some of these offenses and wrongs. So thank you for the question, Councilman. I really appreciate that opportunity to show our legal power. You're on mute, Councilman.
Yeah, sorry about that. So you gave such a broad outline, detailed outline. So if someone actually calls in, so is there a hotline number, or do they email?
Well, right now we're actually working on having a mechanism. Right now we just got our website. It's coming up live, and by the way, you can find it at civilandhumanrights.lacity.org. It's coming up live now. I hope I got it right. If I didn't get it right, someone can correct me. But I'm really excited that we do have the website up live. We hope to have a phone number as well. We want to start taking complaints as soon as possible. The one thing that we're not going to do is to start up a opportunity to have complaints until we are staffed up, because the last thing we want is for people to call us for assistance, and we don't have anyone hired on the legal side of things. And I know Councilman Cedillo has a motion that is pending with the Budget and Finance Committee that will allow us to have some initial staff, and we may have other staffing needs, like a need for investigators or some other things that'll be coming soon. But just to have people to take the complaints and to start the process is something we're really looking forward to. But we will make sure that people can call in. People will be able to use the website, and we will work with our commission staff to hold community outreach events that will basically teach people, about their rights, and to let them know, how to fill out intake documents. We will also have our offices once, construction is complete in the LA Mall, so that we are accessible for walk-in appointments as well. And we will have an intake team there in person to provide assistance to folks. So we want to be sure that we don't have any barriers to making a complaint with us.
I'm glad you preempted my question. I was going to actually ask, how many staff do you even have right now? Because I fully support, our chair is pushing it through. If there's anything else you need,
Yes.
support it, because when we talk about transforming how public safety looks like in the 21st century, I think your department is key. Your department is one of those aspects where we need to augment and support. So, but how many staff do you even have? I mean, I hope you're not doing this all by yourself like you were when you first started.
Well, it's a funny story. I'm almost glad you asked this question as well. As you know, council members, I'm very resourceful. It's not sustainable, but we have an interesting collection of folks. We actually have 4 people that are joining our team from HSID, and we're acquiring those 4 staff members. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, at any given time, 2 of them are usually known as DSW workers. So we really have 2 full-time staff members that are helping us, and for the most part, they're managing our commissions and helping us in some regards, stand up the department with the nuts and bolts. But I have an opportunity to have 3 people on loan to me from 2 different entities, one from the mayor's office of economic opportunity. Deputy Mayor Brenda Shockley was kind enough to loan me 2 people. And we also have someone on loan from the Department of Finance, my executive assistant. And then I have 5 amazing student interns that are helping me in a substantial way. And one of them has recently come on board with a stipend from the mayor's fund to help me on COVID equity, which is a big part of my assignment. So it's a ragtag group of folks, and we're kind of jerry-rigging this together, and I'm hoping I can get staffed up and move things forward before all my students have to go back to school, because they're really helping us to undergird the department. The item that is pending has an opportunity for 12 staff members, and then we probably have about another 10 to 12 that we'll need for the Office of Racial Equity to do all of the work, particularly as it relates to the work with the community-based organizations, the philanthropic groups, our universities, as well as our business groups and our neighborhood councils. So I don't have to tell you that, that arm where we're looking at the policy equity lens, upward mobility, industry diversity metrics, and other things like COVID equity relief, our youth engagement piece. And of course, for all of this, we'll be collaborating with the Office of Immigrant Affairs in our work and our efforts. So thank you for your support. I really appreciate that. And we do need help. And we're really working in a judicious way too. The last thing I'll say is we're really being resourceful by making sure we have legal fellows as well as policy fellows, opportunities for, our students to serve, and then also to be sure that we have the donation of resources from Pepperdine School of Law. We'll also be using other universities in town. We have actually 2 of our interns are from UCLA. They're paid for by UCLA. And in this space, we believe that we'll be able to get help when it comes to our industry diversity metrics for some of our studies, not for all of them, but we may be able to use our universities in this space. So we're going to be a lean machine. The other thing that I think I want to share is we actually brought a number of things under the umbrella of the Civil and Human Rights Department. So we have 3 commissions: the Commission on the Status of Women, obviously the Civil and Human Rights Commission, and the Human Relations Commission, which also has the Transgender Advisory Committee, all under the umbrella of our house, along with our enforcement tools of the Civil and Human Rights Commission. And then we've included the Office of Racial Equity. So the economy of scale is there, and the support in donations of time and talent are also there in a significant way. And we want to be sure that we want to run a lean machine, especially in these times where we do need an investment of initial resources to make this work.
So those committees, those commissions are also comes with staff, or just?
Well, that's included in the 4 people that came over, and like I said, 2 of which are usually at DSW. So that's why we are getting support from our volunteer interns that are helping us in a substantial way, and the folks that are on loan from a couple of departments. And like I said, I'm using my favors, and I'm hoping that we actually get staffed up before my favors in City Hall and beyond run out.
Yeah, so I'm in full support. I'll be taking the lead of our chair, who will be trying to usher that through. Luckily, Councilmember Price is on the budget committee as well. I'll just ask one last question. During your, and obviously this is more once you get staffed up, but during the July 17th meeting, APCON, which is the Asian Pacific Policy and Planning Council, presented AAPI hate crime statistics. And hate crimes all at a high. I know we talked about doing some sort of a forum for Asian hate crime. So I just want to remind you on that, and I'm sure you have other ideas as well, but clearly you're just trying to get the website up and the phone number up right now. So there's a lot more that needs to be done beforehand, but I just want to put that on your radar. Actually, you brought it to me first, so I thank you for that, but I want you to know about that, and you can share it now or share at a later time about something.
Oh, yeah. So I think, by the way, I spoke with the Korean Consul General Consulate's office last week or week before last about making sure that we have another forum. And I work very closely with Manju Kakarne from APCON. And she actually, I put together a forum actually right before I left the city attorney's office with LAPD, the district attorney's office, as well as the city attorney's office, and the Human Relations Commission from LA County to address some of the hate crimes that the API community is facing. And of course, the numbers have just skyrocketed as it relates to hate crimes during this time, and particularly as it relates as we think about what is being said from the White House. It's only fueling some of the hate for that community. And as Manju Kakarne from APCON has said, after 9/11, we had a number of hate crimes skyrocket against the Muslim community or people that were perceived to be Muslim. And in the 20 years pretty much since 9/11, we've the Muslim hate crimes have not gone down below the hate crime numbers. I'm sorry, they've not gone down below the numbers that were pre 9/11 as relates to hate crimes. So we are, and that was a one-day incident, which was so unfortunate, where 3,000 people lost their lives. But if you can just imagine that this event with the pandemic has cost us many more souls, so and has lasted a lot longer. So we are particularly concerned about having long-term effects of hate against the API community, and that's really why we want to nip it in the bud and nip it in the bud fast. So I am all on board to make that a priority. So thank you so much for your support and your questions.
That's all for me. Thank you, Capri, and that's all for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, for your steady leadership of this committee as we move forward through some tumultuous times. Just appreciate your steady hand. And always an honor and pleasure to welcome Capri, Alex. Capri, you're the right person for the right time in this position. So we're just so lucky to have you, have your commitment, your intellect, your passion that is associated with these issues. And you know, Johnny come lately, this is certainly something you've been focusing on, I think, in lots of ways during your career. And I support my colleague, Mr. Ruth, certainly anything through the Budget Committee that we can support, that we can champion on your behalf, we will do it, because he was so right. This is the kind of resource we need, human resources we need, if we're serious about making a change, because you do have an opportunity to really impact lots of individuals. And I know that budget request is going to be coming up soon, so we're going to be working through that with you. But talk a little bit about the collaborative relationships. You mentioned a couple of universities, but how do you envision communicating and connecting with the community-based organizations, neighborhood block clubs, et cetera, informing them of what you do and being a resource to them for a more equitable city?
Appreciate that question, Councilman. I have been out on a pretty much public relations for the Civil and Human Rights Department. In so many ways, we've been in the community. I did a presentation, I think even before our department opened up with SLANG, South Los Angeles area neighborhood councils. And we will be meeting with a number of neighborhood council groups in the next few weeks. I think I'll be at the Valley Alliance Neighborhood Councils. I'll be actually with the Budget Advocates, I believe, from Neighborhood Councils in September, early to mid-September. We've been out. I did the Empowerment Congress event as a panelist. I've done a YMCA event that was hosted by Pat Harvey. YWCA event, it's hosted by Pat Harvey, panelists. So I've been on a number of panels. I've been on reentry panels in the community. I did one actually, I think, a week ago with Reverend Joe Paul, that you guys may know from Bishop Noel Jones's church. So I've been out in the community in a substantial way, but definitely hitting the neighborhood councils. Trying to think of course, some of the universities. Have been on panels with Jody Armour from USC, and I'm looking to tap into some of the connections that I have with my beloved alma mater, Cal State LA, to make sure that we have more of a footprint in a number of diverse communities. And I'm also availing myself to have an opportunity to travel with council members virtually as you all do events in your community. There are other groups you think we should work with, but definitely outreach with our neighborhood councils, our faith-based entities, and our business groups. I've also been on a couple of business panels, ValPAC, and Encino Chamber of Commerce. So I've been making myself available, and I have a couple other events, that'll be pending. So I'm really looking to get out there with the community, also doing events that are recommended by our various commissioners. So there's a big push in this space, and I also believe at the end of the month, I'll be doing an event with the Community Coalition. Alberto Rentana has invited me to participate in a panel discussion for the community in that space. So I'm kind of like, moving around and getting things done. Even tonight, I'm going to be talking to the Paralegal Association of Los Angeles to get their support. So if there's someone that wants to hear about equity and justice, I'm all there and making sure that we're available, because Tom Bradley taught us that availability is the best ability. So thank you so much, Councilman, for the question.
Thanks for your commitment. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me obviously add my voice to the praise of all my colleagues. This is probably maybe perhaps one of the most exciting developments in the tenure of our mayor. It's a department whose time has come, and its breadth and depth is incredible. And so just a couple of things I just want you to think about. Obviously, today the LA Times covered a very large story on the disparities of COVID, and I appreciate your comments that it's not impacting the city equally, and therefore the distribution of the resources of the city cannot be distributed in that same manner. And whether it's resources for housing, the question of homelessness, COVID specifically, but all these are now under the rubric of COVID, and I appreciate your comments that we have to put the resources where the greatest challenges are, not spread them out thinly, but actually focus them on the areas of the greatest challenge. So that's one. Two, I just want you to think about immigration reform. The importance of work, the important work that we've already initiated, the incredible contributions of Peter Shea and his efforts. Los Angeles can lead the way with a new administration to what immigration reform should look like in the city of Los Angeles. We are beginning to develop concepts and motions that would manifest a universal citizenship in the city of Los Angeles, so that we can take advantage of all the incredible talent and resources of the immigrant community, and also facilitate their process towards citizenship. And then from that, a full participation in the city. So I want to ask you to think about that, and types of programs and support for our efforts. Lending practices and financial institutions, their availability in the city obviously is very important. And so we've got experience in that. I want to talk to you in terms of one example of the disparities of COVID is, for example, the fact that Wi-Fi is not available to everybody in the city. So in my district, 40% of my district does not have access to Wi-Fi. That is very cruel, very draconian. It excludes them from opportunities for school, for library, for recreation, for civic engagement. It's really a dismal circumstance for a very large segment of my district, at a minimum, and throughout the city. So we have to think about that in terms of policies that emerge and where resources are placed. And then finally, on the budget, I'd like you to think about what your optimum budget would be. What would your greatest budget look like? Because we're committed to that. I think this department has to emerge as one of the premier departments of the city, state, nation, but also has to be one of our bigger budgets because of the incredible challenges, the breadth and depth of your charge. Those commissions that are under you, the Commission on the Status of Women, the Human Relations Commission, all these commissions need to be fully staffed and resourced, as well as yours. I think Mr. Wu is beginning to scratch at the potential that exists within the department for bringing equity and a sense of peace in our city. I think Mr. Curran also believes that this can play a major role in terms of these questions of policing and security and safety in our city. And so think about your optimum budget. so that then this committee can work with you and with the budget committee to make sure that we have the resources that we need. Not to criticize, but I was very concerned initially when the city began to move towards cannabis that we weren't fully resourced for the department. And we see that when we're not fully resourced, we are in some respects designing a department not to be as optimally successful as it can be. And given this subject matter, we cannot afford that. So think big, be bold, be courageous, and we don't want to waste money, but we don't want to leave money on the table anywhere, both within the city budget and then within the various philanthropic, within the philanthropic community, incredible resources that exist. Irvine Foundation, California Endowment, California Community Foundation, et cetera, et cetera. You know, the community of philanthropy that's part of Southern California. So those are my areas that I would like to have you think about and look at. And then I'm prepared for us to, do we have a motion? Michael? No, we're just going to receive and file your report as a matter of record. And thank you for your time and attention to us this afternoon.
Thank you so much, Councilman. And I just want to make one point on the Wi-Fi. I just met with Deborah Eduardo from LA County Office of Education regarding Wi-Fi as school is coming back, back online. And unfortunately, our students have to be online. So, I have a 13-year-old son. So, so starting this school year online is, problematic. But it's even more of a burden for our students that do not have access to Wi-Fi. It's one of the things I fought for when I was at LAUSD in partnerships, and we raised, $4 million in assets to help in that space to break the digital divide, but it does not go far enough. And with 40% of your residents not having this access, that is extremely problematic. And so Deborah Eduardo from the County Office of Education has a plan to work on having pods, education pods, and I also have a few calls in, of course, with my LAUSD counterparts to be sure that we have locations where students can safely access the internet. And we're working on a number of things as it relates to the equity space, like teenagers that can't get online and do their work because they're left at home taking care of their younger siblings. Yep. And so we're working, 360 on a number of things. Nora and I, for example, are going to be, tackling the opportunities as relates to people that have been sent home with the COVID diagnosis, and those folks finding access to food. What do you do when half the household has COVID and you need to get food? So even thinking about ideas as it relates to food delivery in that space, and of course increasing the number of beds available for people to self-isolate. So, the equity issues, like I said, I just want to talk about those two because they are time sensitive as it relates to COVID and getting our students back online and educated. So thank you so much for your leadership, and thank you for your support. And thank you even for the nudge to do all we can while we can to make a difference in this space.
Thank you. We're very excited. I'm very excited. I know that my colleagues are. This is an area for which we come to serve. And so, as the senator said, this is the right person for the right time. And we just want to go forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Okay. Item 2, do we want to read that into the record?
Yes, item number 2 is communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Leslie Ivy to the Civil and Human Rights Commission.
Ms. Ivy's filling a vacancy created by Susie Jack, who has separated from the commission. The financial disclosure and the background reviews are pending. Ms. Ivy, you're with us. You want to say hello to us and talk to us about what it is to be part of the city at this really dynamic, historic, and challenging moment.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you and be with you virtually. Hello, council members. Hello, Attorney Maddox. Hello, staff. This is probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me, and I am really grateful to have the opportunity to serve my hometown at a time when every single vulnerable community is more vulnerable. I've had the pleasure of working in lots of different communities. I'm a criminal defense attorney at Restoration Law Center. Before becoming an attorney, I served as a fundraiser for many different nonprofits, for the Liberty Hill Foundation, for the Japanese American National Museum, for the National Immigration Law Center, for the American Association of University Women, for Ronald McDonald House Charities, Camps for Children with Cancer, and with Inner City Arts, a nonprofit arts organization in downtown Los Angeles. And in my years of work as both a lawyer and a fundraiser, I have seen something in each different community which cannot be erased by hatred, discrimination, racism, and the structures that keep those systems of hate moving forward. And the thing that cannot be erased is the brilliance of people, the brilliance of the human spirit. And I think this commission is so important because it gives power to the people to push back on the systems that would hamper their growth. Thank you.
Mr. Rue. Honorable David Rue.
No, thank you. That's a very impressive. I saw your resume, Miss Ivy, and you expounded on it. That's a very impressive resume, and more importantly, a very diverse resume. Which I'm very impressed on. We're glad, and we thank you for all of your past service, and I thank you for your service now in this most time of need, as you aptly stated, as well as Capri stated. There's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done, a lot of bridge building, a lot of healing that needs to be done, and your commission is going to be instrumental in that healing. So I really appreciate your willingness to serve in the past and now, and I have no questions for you. I think you are the right person for this position, so thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Senator Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually just want to thank you, Leslie, for your willingness to serve. You certainly have a lineage of service in your background, strong family roots in our community. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for stepping up and for making things better. These are some challenging times, but you have a unique background, training, and experience, I think, that is going to permit you to really be a important member of this committee and to provide services to our city. So congratulations, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Let me ditto the comments of my colleagues, of course. Thank you for your history of service. Thank you particularly for your work with the Ronald McDonald's House for Kids with Cancer. Subject matter very near and dear to my heart. And just thank you for your brilliance. We're very excited for this appointment. Incredible resources that you bring, and we look forward to amalgamating a body of talent under this rubric of this new department with its commissions that are going to be part of it as really a force within the city and the region, and I think a force within the nation for bringing justice back to the front of the agenda of our nation. So thank you for your service. Thank your family. We should be very proud of you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Is the desk cleared?
Would you like to take a roll call vote on the appointment?
We would.
Okay, then first would be Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Councilmember Price.
Aye.
And Councilmember Rue.
Aye.
The appointment it has been approved by the committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that clear our desk?
Yes, the desk is clear.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Without objection? So be the order. Thank everybody for participating this afternoon. I appreciate your time and your attendance and your contributions. So everybody have a great afternoon.
All right,
Look
thank you.
forward and serve the city.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the staff.
Thank you.
Email. Thank you.